Excellency, the member of JAPNAS, North Sumatra, and all of the participants of the international webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you all. I also wish to welcome the eldest participant here with us today. My 92 years old grandmother, Ibu Sukadiah Ringgo Harjoso, the former ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Denmark. Welcome to the webinar, and thank you very much also to the participants from around the world, from Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, Australia, USA, Denmark, and India, who are attending this virtual international webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, this reminds me of one sentence in Netflix serial. There are times when we make history, and there are times when history makes us. It happens to be, for the example, the platform used for this webinar, Zoom Cloud Meeting, has made by pandemic corona. Ladies and gentlemen, JAPNAS Sumut, that established since November 2017, has been great. Many programs to encourage business synergy among the members of JAPNAS. We focusing to business network development, to scale up from small business to medium enterprise, from medium enterprise to big corporation, and make it established. We initiated to help this international webinar is the mission to synergize, to collaborate, and explore the potential of business cooperation between ASEAN countries during the pandemic. We do hope we can survive. We can get through this difficult phase. Even though I know we are bleeding now, but I'm sure we can through it together. Please enjoy the webinar. Before we start our presentation, we will adopt some regulation on holding this webinar. The moderator will guide you through the entire webinar. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Sarah. And Sarah, I will turn the floor over to you now.
Thank you, SYAHRUL. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished guests, thank you for joining this virtual discussion by JAPNAS. As my colleagues already mentioned, my name is Sarah Desideria. I'm the chairman of this webinar committee, as well as your moderator for today's discussion. First of all, may I briefly introduce to you our keynote speaker and panelists. First, we have Mr. PADMO SARWONO. Some of his significant positions are in 2014 until 2017. He's a head of mission consulate of Republic Indonesia in Perth, Australia. And now he is the permanent representative of Indonesia to ASEAN. And also we have for the panelists, the founder of Young Entrepreneur Networking Development Program, our dearest Mr. ADUL CHOTINISAKORN, whom also the Director General of Department of Foreign Trade Thailand, and the Honorable Mr. BAYU PRIAWAN as a chairman of Jaringan Pengusaha Nasional or JAPNAS Indonesia. And now, without further ado, let's start the first presentation about the new normal in ASEAN business from our keynote speaker, Mr. PADMO SARWONO. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished participant, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to you all. At the outset, I wish to express my gratitude to Jaringan Pengusaha Nasional Sumatera Utara branch who inviting me to give a keynote speech in today's webinar. I feel honored, and I wish also to acknowledge the presence of the chairman of Jaringan Pengusaha Nasional and other distinguished speaker and participant from several countries in the region and outside the region. I think this webinar regarding the new normal in ASEAN business is very timely. And in fact, it's also important considering that we are about to enter the phase so-called new normal. Business, private sector play a key role in contributing how we are interact, how we are doing business, and how we maintain socializing in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, I must say that the global and regional environment are facing a very challenging time in our modern day. Last couple of years ago, we always hear about mentioning Industrial Revolution 4.0, digitalization, artificial intelligence, 5G, and so on. Some responding positively and eagerly, but some are also cautious because they are not prepared yet, including some government. With all those evolution, last year many economists and think tanks also already warned us about the possible economic recession in some country and will affect globally. But some region, including we are in ASEAN, is confident to some extent to that effect. While we will feel this impact to our region. Then suddenly in last few months, a drastic situation confronting us with pandemic COVID-19. Being not prepared facing a pandemic, every country is doing everything it can do to mitigate. Never in our mind that pandemic COVID-19 has caused not only economic but a multidimensional effect in our life, in the way we are communicate right now, and in the way we are interact with each other, and the way we are socialized, and also most importantly, in the way we do business. We see the effect like transportation, tourism, hotel, restaurant are severely hit. Other supporting business, particularly medium, small, micro, small, medium enterprise also feel the bad impact. Some of them are not able to endure. The ASEAN Development Bank revised its growth, the economic growth, facing a downward. And for ASEAN countries, previously from 4.4% last year, probably we only have 1% in this 2020. Now, as I said, every government, country, private sector must rethink its policy, regulation, and business culture. Government have introduced stimulus package, restructuring both fiscal and monetary measures to mitigate the economic impact. Yet, the successful of this adjustment require a harmony, a relationship or synergy between business, people, and government, meaning that everyone should be on board and cooperate. The 26th ASEAN Economic Minister meeting last 2 months ago in March adopted a statement strengthening ASEAN economic resilience in response to the outbreak of COVID-19, which called for collective action and maintaining open market. Several interventions are required in the midst of the current pandemic. First, ensuring the supply chain, refrain from imposing additional non-tariff barrier, utilizing technology platform such as ASEAN Single Window to accelerate custom process. Second, using the digital trade through digitalization and e-commerce will keep business runs. It will help economic movement. Third, micro, small, and medium enterprise are in the dire needs of government support. Government start to develop policy to able to help them. Fourth, strengthening cooperation with external partners. ASEAN organized a summit, including with its partners, plus 3 partners, China, Japan, and Republic of Korea. ASEAN Minister for Foreign Affairs, Economic, Health, and others had virtual discussion with their respective counterparts within ASEAN, including also with external partners. Fifth, preparing the post-COVID-19 plan, identifying activity and developing policies in opening up country and entering a new normal. The Special ASEAN Summit called for post-pandemic plan to restore ASEAN connectivity, tourism, normal business, social activity to prevent potential economic downturn. Second, to ensure ASEAN critical infrastructure for trade and trading routes via air, land, and sea should remain open. And third, refrain from imposing unnecessary restriction, especially for the essential goods like medical, food, and others. As a result, ASEAN proposed to establish a COVID-19 ASEAN Response Fund. As follow-up the ASEAN Summit, the economic minister again met and they laid down action that need to be implemented by member countries. The underlying issue is to ensure the flow of essential goods during challenging time for food, medicine, and medical supply. Reiterating coordination with custom aims to accelerate the process of imported goods. There are other actions under Hanoi Plan of Action on strengthening ASEAN economic cooperation and supply chain connectivity in response to the COVID-19 pandemic adopted by the way of all those meetings is the commitment in continuing the region economic integration despite of the pandemic and the challenging environment. Engagement with ASEAN external partners remain important. With several external partners is already start to develop an action plan. Galvanizing joint initiative and effort toward post-pandemic recovery in the region, stabilize manufacture and supply chain of goods and services to increase regional economic stability and resilience. Strengthening our collaboration is unavoidable for economic recovery and growth. We are very connected each other, so we need to prepare the future crisis become a necessity. Private and business sector role is very significant. It should be a platform to deal with this current situation. Recently, ASEAN has already established ASEAN High-Level Special Commission on COVID-19 response and economic recovery consists of government and business representatives. It will boast of action of view and identify between the government and business people in South Asia how to deal with the current crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, the road ahead is still uncertainty, and there's no crystal ball how we can predict in the future. However, we should start to do something to protect job, business, and economy. Government has already made several adjustments to mitigate the adverse impact of COVID-19. as I mentioned earlier, the fiscal policy, monetary policy, as well as social safety net for those are vulnerable. We have to be optimistic in facing all these challenges. And the only way in facing this crisis is working together. Business people should play its part on the recovery and building economic resilience. ASEAN businesses in the era of the new normal have to be more creative, more agile, more adaptive, and resilient in facing the new condition. He has to be able to explore even slightly opportunity and maximize the benefit having digital technology in doing its business. I have some observation in the so-called the new normal. Perhaps this is not new, but it requires reinforcing. First, we need to bring back consumer confidence. We are now experiencing historical low of consumer confidence. There's a need to have a business culture. Adaptation is the key word. Creativity is another important aspect in business. We are now in the digital era. Industrial Revolution 4.0 is beginning more and more feel in our daily life. And I believe the millennial has done it earlier. Improving the human resource, education, and training have to match with the new ecosystem. And I heard Jaringan also promote entrepreneurship. I think it's also important for the current situation. Business engagement with the region and outside the region will ensure the economic movement and supply chain. In the end, I wish that the new normal would bring us a transit point that leads to a better condition. In addition, if we can manage to go through this transit point, hopefully we can recover our life back to a complete normalcy again. I thank you for your time. I hope it is useful, the keynote useful for our webinar discussion. And thank you for Jaringan Pengusaha Nasional for giving me the time. And I wish you stay healthy, stay safe. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Mr. Ade PADMO SARWONO. And now we will hear from our dear speaker from Thailand. Please give a warm welcome to dear Mr. ADUL CHOTINISAKORN. Please. Mr. ADUL, sorry, could you please turn on the voice?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Okay.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I have 20 minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay. First of all,
it can be more also.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank JAPNAS for inviting me to participate in this very important session for the COVID crisis. And I think this is very important for all the ASEAN country. And for your information, if you see my batik shirt here, actually this is designed by Sarah. And I have intentionally to wear to participate in this webinar today. For my presentation about the ASEAN business, mostly I would love to show you the Thailand scenario, mostly for this webinar, and talking about ASEAN business now. Now is new normal in ASEAN business. We couldn't touch hand anymore. We cannot touch each other. We cannot come closer to each other anymore. And in Thailand, mostly, I think now in Thailand is quite relaxed, more relaxed, because until today we have only 2 new cases infected in Thailand. But for the 2 new cases, is Thai people who just came back from abroad. So right now in Thailand, within Thailand, we don't have any new case for 15 days consecutively. This means if we consider only Thailand, we don't have any new infection. And this is, we hope that we wait for the 28th. If we can have 0 infection for 28 days, I think to that point, I think we are more safe, and we hope to see that point another 13 days if we can control. And thanks to all the doctor and people in the health system in Thailand also. Even that, the situation in Thailand on the COVID is quite relaxed, but the economic impact, I think this is very tough for Thailand also. 2014, after the lockdown measure in the 2020, and industrial output also dropped very fast. Actually, the fastest rate since the severe flooding in Thailand, because if you can notice that in Thailand, most of our foreign income, foreign revenue, we got it from foreign tourists, and we affect a lot from the COVID. For the manufacturing production, actually, my detail is too much. Okay, go very fast. And if you can compare from like year in 2016, but in 2020, you see that the industrial production dropped very quickly and very sharply, and also the capacity utilization also very low and go down very quickly also. This is the industrial output of Thailand after the we get the infection from COVID-19 since 4 months ago. About import, if you can see the capital goods, which is the quite big in the proportion, the share of importing of capital goods is around 25%, and also in contraction now is going down, and also raw material not going down, but with big proportion around 36% of import. This is affect moderately, and another 2 point for import is that consumer goods and vehicle is they got contraction very hardly. So this is what we got from COVID-19. For export dropped a lot. And for your information, in Thailand, we depend mostly on tourism and export. Only 2 parts of this is a big share in our GDP. So the major machine on our economic now is going down, and this is, we are quite worried. If you can see from the export of major product, the contraction is also agricultural product. Like this, during the last month, we export a lot of mangosteen to China. Every year we got biggest market share in China for mangosteen, around 63% of market share. But first, during the first 4 months of this year, during the COVID-19, Indonesia now is number 1 of exporting mangosteen into China market. Because from Indonesia to China, you need to spend at least 13 days shipping by ships. But in Thailand, we got more advantage on land transportation. we spent only 3 days. But we have to pass through our neighboring country. The thing is, after COVID-19, all the neighboring country, they close the border. And this is the reason why we cannot export all the fresh fruits to China as usual. They just opened for us. So I think, but in quarter 2, gonna be better because the more relaxed on the neighboring country also. The export, when we see the major destination, you can see that mostly we export to ASEAN. With ASEAN also, we got some, we were affected by moderately. But for China, Japan, EU, this is the, we got a strong contraction. This is the scenario of Thailand. So, so we hope the situation should be better because some kinds of products are still in need, like electronic and also processed food and some medical equipment. What we hope for the near future. Foreign tourists, you see that we used to have around we have, I think, more than 40 million tourists to Thailand. But if you see from the graph here, you see that in March, this is very, very low tourists. And this affects us a lot. Actually, for tourism, I think the whole world got contraction because we don't have any commercial aircraft to fly to everywhere we would like to go. But Thailand, because we are mostly depends on tourism a lot. So especially for China, we every year we have tourists from China around 10 million. But right now, you see, like in March this year, we have less than 1 million. Because if you can see from this, you can see that normally we have like 4 million, almost 4 million per month. But here in March, we have less than 1 million. This is affected a lot. From the presentation, most of the tourists in Thailand are China, 27.6%. ASEAN is number 2 because we are a neighboring country. We have around 16%. We have European, we have North Asia. This is the all the tourists coming to Thailand. For the outlook for us, private spending and consumption all going down. For the consumption in March is minus 0.6%. Investment also minus 7% also. This is the scenario of Thailand. For the sentimental indicator, for business sentiment, you see from January, for the past 4 months, if you see this graph, this is going down very sharply. This means this is affect a lot of investment and also consumption in Thailand also. Because as I mentioned before that we depend on tourism. So when we have no tourists coming, all the business sentiment going down very sharply. And also the unemployment. We have 16% of people now fight for unemployment benefit. Also, you can see from this. And the problem is the household debt now is escalating level in non-financial sector. and total expenditure to income ratio going from 106% to 111%. And COVID-19 increased percent share of vulnerable employee to 46%. This is very terrible for us. Indebted farmer already vulnerable to shock would be hit hard by the drought crisis also. Not only COVID that we are aware, but we also very afraid of drought this year because the level of water reserve in all dam is very low and lower than normal. This is what we worry. And also still there got some sign of recovery, but still have a lot of high uncertainty and permanent economic scars. So even the situation now, we feel that it's much better, but we still face a lot of uncertainty in the economy because not only Thailand, because now we can call COVID like the spread to all over the world. So even we feel safer in Thailand, but we're still aware of a lot of people from other countries that they cannot control. And if they cannot control, it means we couldn't get customer coming into Thailand. So this is what we quite worry again. The other thing that we quite worry is the obstacle to recovery. You just motorcycle. If we see the credit to GDP, we're going to see that for household is the highest portion, and non-financial corporate also lesser than household, and general government is the lowest one. So if you see this graph for household debt to GDP, you see that is 79.8% of household debt to GDP. This is the highest in 3.5 years. I think this is not good for us also. This is to kind of pass this one. And what I mentioned before is that not only COVID, but about the problem of drought, that we are very worried because the level of water reserve in Thailand really limited now, and the weather is still very dry, and we're waiting for enough rain water to help the agricultural of Thailand, because in Thailand, all the farmer, we have around 7.9 million farmer, but 7.9 million is the farmer with debt. So this is big problem, and it means that 70% of farmer are in debt, because total farmer in Thailand we have around 11.4 million farmer, which 70% in debt. This is a big problem of Thailand also. And before the pandemic, Indian farmer total expenditure already 132% of total income. They spend more, led by the involved in vegetable and root, including cassava, rice producer, and animal products. And after COVID-19, it can shock all the farmer because the ratio can go up to 133%, because there will still be demand for agricultural product also. But the drought crisis could hurt rice and cassava. A lot of farmers start going right and no water. So this is a big problem. Okay, can I go down? Okay. The other thing coming now is that this is the whole picture of some country in neighboring country ASEAN. If you see this, you can see that Vietnam is the first country in ASEAN to react to the COVID-19. we can notice that the faster they respond, the faster they can relax. Like you see Vietnam from first week of March, so they can end all the measure on 23rd of April. While Philippines even this respond quite fast, but because the situation in Philippines is not so good, so that they extend the measure until the end of May. They just start relax on the 1st of June. Myanmar, I think the latest one who respond to COVID-19, but they still under the measure until the 18th of June. And but you can see this line. These lines mean partially lockdown. But for Laos, they start responding to COVID on the fifth week of March, and with a fully lockdown until the 3rd of May. Until 17th of May, they stop all the strict measure. This is how the ASEAN country respond to COVID-19. Cambodia is also have done a very good job. They respond quite late, but they stop all the measures 16th of April. This is how ASEAN country respond to COVID. The other thing is that all the country in ASEAN now, we have a lot of problem of debt also in every country, and this is that give you some impression of how we have really high debt in our country, in every country in the ASEAN. And if you can see from this, Cambodia got the highest, while Myanmar and Philippines is got quite low in debt for their country. So in conclusion, for ASEAN and the policy development in May 2020, in ASEAN, we have mixed successes in containing COVID-19, suggest an uneven timeline to reopen the economy, as I mentioned before in the last slide, and surging debt could threaten country with weak fundamental. This is the whole picture of ASEAN. For Laos PDR, the construction of China-Laos Railway project is on track for completion by December next year. This is the Laos. You see that Laos can control the pandemic very well. For Myanmar, Central Bank of Myanmar take another wave of banking sector liberalization, promoting trade and investment also during pandemic time. Vietnam, government of Vietnam has revised the GDP for 2020 target to 5%, because Vietnam still going up quite well in this situation. Cambodia also real estate and construction sector would face serious risk in this year because they depend mostly on China. For Philippines, economy shrank 0.2% in the first quarter of this year due to weaker demand, and things still get worse. Inbound remittance, because Philippines got a lot of labor working abroad and a lot coming back to Philippines, so they're gonna lose a lot of remittance from abroad. For Indonesia, from the research, first quarter of 2000, GDP growth slow to 3%, much better than Thailand. Thailand is minus 5%. But for Indonesia, in the first quarter of this year, slow to 3%. But even 3% for myself, I think this is quite good. But for Indonesia, they say that this is the weakest since fourth quarter or to fourth quarter of 2001, and higher list of contraction for full year 2020. This is the whole scenario of the region. So my last part of the effect of COVID, how we gonna live with it. The first thing is that rethinking for post-pandemic world. So that got a possibility of shifting in world order. As you know that now China got a lot of influence, and at the same time USA now quite weak in many problems. And we always get used to the word globalization. I think post-COVID, we have to focus more on localization. And they got some new idea of tourism, bubble tourism, that some country, neighboring country can travel together for the sake of all the people. And another thing is that leading with empathy. Because of pandemic of COVID-19, I think people feel more empathy to each other. So this is the key successful response to the pandemic. For example, in Thailand, we have a lot of program to make people give to each other, to help each other, and work quite well in Thailand. Another point is that what we have to rethink is that trust economy and trust politics. This is based on reliability of government body handling crisis. Because in Thailand, we have, when we start facing with COVID-19, I think during the first period of pandemic, we got a lot of problem. But finally, we changed ourselves. First, they got a lot of politicians try to help to solve the problem, but didn't work. So the prime minister start changing the strategy by working with all the key doctor who work in the public health environment. So this is help Thailand a lot. And also we have to trust in quality of product and service, as we have seen during demand surge for mask and hand sanitizer. So now situation in Thailand is much better now. We don't lack of any product needed. And also pandemic has revealed the core value and morality of employer. This is, we have rethinking on this. And we have to redesign our brand. I'm talking about Thailand, because right now in Thailand, we have to rethink and also redesign, because we can manage very well for this pandemic. And we have to redesign our health and wellness business, because right now, this morning, I think I heard from news that for health and wellness in Thailand, we are ranking #1 in Asia and ranked #6 in the world now. So I think this is the strong point of Thailand that we have to keep up with and redesign our brand and our positioning in the world market. And also the redesign of longevity, and also redesign of our cultural and local experiences, because after the COVID-19, I think we have more experience and we know how to redesign of what we are really strong, and we positioning ourselves, repositioning in the world market. For the last slide, digitalization for adaptability, but this is the quiz KO or COVID-19, because in the past, we never used any kinds of that.
It's okay. Thank you so much for interesting talk from Mr. ADUL, CHOTINISAKORN. And next, we also have, please welcome Mr. BAYU PRIAWAN, the Chairman of JAPNAS, Jaringan Pengusaha Nasional Indonesia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Mr. Adul. Nice to see you again. Your Excellency, Pak Ade PADMO, the Ambassador of Singapore, thank you. I'm very, very sorry that I'm late joining the webinar now due to important business issues. Well, once again, thank you for the opportunity for this webinar. Thank you for Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, and Mr. Adul are able to join the webinar hosted by JAPNAS Sumatera Utara. But interesting news that I've got from Mr. Adul, despite from all the how do you say it, declining from most of the sectors in economy, COVID-19 make us having more quality life. So with the quiz questions from the last slide from Mr. Adul, the answer will be COVID-19, yeah, Mr. Adul, who lead the digital transformation for the company. So it's COVID-19 which lead the digital transformation to a lot of businesses. So COVID-19 bring more quality of life with less money because the business slowing down and we got less money from it. Anyway, from our perspective as a business operator, from the business industry, as also from the JAPNAS, Jaringan Pengusaha Nasional, the National Entrepreneurship Network, we are now facing very challenging situation, and I think everybody know already. And but if I may ask for, particularly for Mr. Ambassador in Singapore, I've read the news a few days ago from Bloomberg, and it is stated that even the Prime Minister himself saying that Singapore in the future will not be the same like before. Singapore is relying on global trading, global network, global business. They are relying. Their competitiveness is based on their global hub in Southeast Asia in particular. Because of this COVID-19, and this globalness will of course decline, and they will now become more close country. That's what I've got from the news. And since we are neighbor with Indonesia, and I am doing business a lot with Singapore company, as an entrepreneur, I will like to know what actually the policy that will apply from Singapore for the business sectors in relation for the international trading, and also as an international hub. Maybe that is more the questions. As for Mr. Adul as the founder of GND as well, and last time we've helped the business synergy that successfully asked to make 223 million synergy. I just want to report to Mr. Adul that those synergy is actually happening, Pak. So thanks to you as the founder of YND, and that's with a good concept, with such a sophisticated concept of networking, make us able to create a business synergy more than 200 million. Unfortunately, we are going to have this synergy again this year, but due to the COVID-19, we have to postpone it again. We have to postpone that program for the business synergy. I think that is from me. Thank you, Mbak Sarah, as the host.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. BAYU PRIAWAN. And also, we'd like to thank you also for our keynote speaker, Mr. PADMO SARWONO, and also Mr. ADUL CHOTINISAKORN for the informative and interesting presentation. Now, if anyone has any question, I'm sure our speaker would be pleased to answer them. So now we come to question and answer session. I'd like to have 3 questions from the participants, please.
Intervene a little bit. I just want to make correction of Pak Bayu. I'm not Indonesian ambassador to Singapore. I am Indonesian ambassador to ASEAN. I just want to make a correction.
I'm sorry, Pak. I mean the ambassador of ASEAN. I'm sorry.
But to kick the discussion, probably I can, briefly, not briefly. I mean, I try to give some perspective about the and I listening attentively to Excellency Mr. Abdul as well the presentation. You know, it's what's the situation now in the region, especially in ASEAN members countries. Though we are facing challenging time, but we are to some extent we have several advantage. First, many young people, which is very using technology. So I think this is very and so while we're entering the new era with digitalization, I'm considered I'm already dinosaurs with technology. They are more able, using. So this is an advantage. Of course, the supply chain, as Mr. Abdul mentioned, is also important, or continue important, because if there is no interaction and no trade on, it will be the economical will be difficult. And I try to not answer direct. Singapore is most in the trade slowed down. Will have devastating impact from to Singapore. But again, from us 10 ASEAN member countries, Singapore in terms of technology is more advanced. So there probably I don't know, probably from Singapore could have better answer, but I think they can still manage with the technology that they have in supporting the business in the region. So this what my not answer directly to Pak Bayu, but at least give some perspective on this. Thank you, Vice Moderator.
Real apology, Pak. Real apology for the misaddress of the ambassador of ASEAN. Yeah.
Maybe Mr. BAYU PRIAWAN would like to respond it, or maybe Mr. ADUL.
Actually, I think in the ASEAN country, if we can join hand together, and I think for the pandemic of COVID-19, I think this is the way that we can come closer, and the way of working in ASEAN after COVID-19, I think we're gonna change a lot, because in the past mostly we work on ourselves, but right now we have to work together. For example, like in tourism sector, we have to concentrate on the bubble tourism, which the country that's safe from COVID-19, safe from pandemic, we can join hand and work together. For example, like Thailand and Laos and also Myanmar. All these countries, we have a lot of infected people, and when all the ASEAN can solve this problem and we have less and less infected people, I think the tourism can come up easier. This is my point of view on the tourism.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Adul. Okay, next we already have a question actually from Mr. Jamson. The first question comes from Mr. Jamson asking about what is the forecast opportunity for new normal business in ASEAN, especially in Indonesia. Maybe Mr. Ambassador can answer also, and Mr. BAYU and Mr. Adul can also give any additional answer. What is the forecast opportunity in new normal business for ASEAN, especially for Indonesia? What kind of business that we need to run?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe
Please,
Mr. Adil or Mr. BAYU? Okay,
Yeah,
please.
in business, probably more know what's the opportunity.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. BAYU PRIAWAN, please.
Well, if you ask many people, if you ask business people, what are the opportunity, what are the possible opportunity post COVID? Is that what the question is? Can you
Mr.
repeat the question?
Johnson.
Sorry, can you repeat the
Mr.
question again?
Oh, okay. The question is what is the forecast opportunity for the new normal business in ASEAN?
Okay,
especially in Indonesia. What kind of business that we can run, that we can make in this new normal era?
You want to have a honest you want to have a honest answer, or you want to have a rhetorical questions?
Maybe can be an answer, Mr. BAYU.
Honest question, I don't know. Because I'm struggling too. We are struggling too.
Yeah, maybe it can be business like a fashion or not. Because actually,
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Due to all the challenging situation like that we've got today, I do believe that in every crisis, there will be a huge opportunity coming in. Yes. So let's see from the business sectors that are impacted or not impacted from the COVID itself. We know that tourism is the one of the sectors that is hit very much. Property also.
Yes.
I've got a property business. I've got a tourism business in one of the island in Indonesia. Luckily, the building is still there, but with no guests. I think that's much impacted. Transportation is hit also the most. Airlines industry hit is the most, and might be property also impacted.
Yes.
Financial business also more or less impacted. But the point is, there will be due to the COVID-19, there will be less economic interactions, and which result in demand shifting. So the demand is not only gonna be lesser, but it's gonna be different in a way if you relate it with the consumer behavior needs. So the opportunity, of course, will be in medical, energy, consumer goods, and also the business that provide such product and services that needed to support basic human needs for the modern era. So there are many sectors, many line of businesses that can be taken into for today's situation. But again, many business person have their own capacity, have their own ability to pivot in their business now. So there are many opportunities. I cannot state that one by one, which is still on running. But if I may put example as myself, from the businesses that I've got, 50% is get impacted negatively from my businesses, but 50% from the other side of the story is actually increased significantly. The food industry is increasing. The commodity for food-related business is increasing. The energy is increasing. Telecommunication as well increasing, and there are also many factors. I think that's what I can give insight. I hope this can help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. BAYU. Maybe Mr. Ade?
Thank you. It's very pertinent question, and Pak BAYU already mentioned. Of course, as said in my keynote, there's no crystal ball. We don't know. But one thing is we are now in the situation where outbreak of pandemic, and there is no antiviral vaccine right now. While we're waiting hopefully not in the long future that we can have already vaccine. If there is vaccine, probably the business probably a little bit return to normal. But it's already mentioned by Pak BAYU. What sector? First, digitalization, as also Mr. ADUL mentioned. Digitalization, it will be, how we utilize the digital technology to support the business. And for farming, as Mr. ADUL mentioned, farming is also food is will require, but now how to improve the production of the agriculture production, for example, and using the digital. I think this is also probably an opportunity for finding what kind of business to help the farmer, and then also other essential goods, because the demand for food, for clothes, for basic needs will be continue. But now the question how to improve that, how to the production become much better. And also Pak Bayu mentioned about health. I think also to think how the big company, while they have factory, how can be able to switch on during certain time, is like happen like now. As I know, I read in the newspaper, some big company who produce clothes, or they move now to make face masks. This is an opportunity. Now the business of face mask is growing from the household industry, or even the bigger company now, and there is more design of the mask. Previously we saw the mask is only white, the color is white, blue, black. Now it's colorful, and with some design, like in Indonesia, batik design. So it's opportunity. There's still opportunity, if we be able to to explore further. And I agree with Pak Bayu. There are always opportunity whenever there is a crisis, and the important thing, we have always to be optimistic, in facing that situation. So probably again, there is no crystal ball how to, but at least it is up of individual in business, how be able to find opportunity and explore, to be more innovative. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Adul want to adding up, or?
Okay, I think for Excellency and Pak Bayu, I think cover almost everything. But I think in the same way is that in Thailand, we are concentrate more on food, because we are the net food exporter. So we are quite strong in processed food and also agricultural product also. And the other thing that I think for Thai entrepreneur that can adjust themselves very, very well is that in garment sector. From my Yendi alumni, we have many entrepreneurs that have garment factory, and now they turn garment factory to produce the fashion mask, and in Thailand now very popular. And for masks that made from fabric and nano fabric, I think they have adjusted themselves very, very, very well. And the other thing is that for the simple medical equipment, or some equipment like PPE, and also the face shield, that adapt themselves to make all these kinds of product, and got a very good welcome from the market also. I think this is the same way as the two gentlemen just mentioned. I just add on situation in Thailand that now we have like more new fashion masks coming into the market, and Thai people now in the market, we welcome all the beautiful masks, and now we use this like our part of our body. So like, well, before I going out of my house, at least I have 2 pieces with me in case facing with raining, so I have to change for another one. So this is, and these kinds of things we're gonna use a lot in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adul. So now I have already had 3 questions here. The second one is from Mr. Arimansyah. I have a question for Mr. Ambassador. What is the effort or collaboration between Indonesian government and ASEAN to support new normal economy or to support business continuity in Indonesia in the pandemic era? Maybe Mr. Ambassador, Mr. PADMO SARWONO can answer it to Mr. Arimansyah.
To support the new normal.
Thank you for the question. I try to answer it. As I mentioned in my remarks, that the important thing is how we can support each other. Of course, as I mentioned we still focus on how to pursue and continue our regional economic integration. In what sense? And what sense is what kind? For example, what kind of example? We have to continue open our market, our also investment. This and we commit to each other to help in opening our market, and also as Mr. ADUL mentioned about supply chain, once have difficulty exporting to China because the border is closed. Now the important thing is open the border and make it the flow of goods continue flowing between ASEAN. This is important. This is help not only Indonesia but all the ASEAN member states, because what we are looking, if the supply chain is continue moving, so the economic also is generated the economic. So this important that what's ASEAN can help to Indonesia and Indonesia can help to other ASEAN member country. The first foremost is open how to to make it the border the market continue open, no additional non-tariff barrier, and make it easy for the process of good or commodity entering. As now ASEAN has completely the ASEAN single window, with easy process for all documentation now using all digital. So there's also opportunity for how to improve the digitalization in documentation, so we make it easy for export and import of goods. So this, I think, what my answer about the question of what ASEAN can support to Indonesia, and in fact there is also how Indonesia as well can support ASEAN. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. Next, we also have questions from Mr. Fauzan. Wait a minute. Okay, from Mr. Fauzan, we are all experiencing a lot of intense emotions during these ever-evolving times, and entrepreneurs are no exception. To make it worse, there is an additional level of stress as they try to do the best by their employees and customers. What is the best way to find balance and achieving a healthy mindset for us as entrepreneurs during this pandemic? It can be for Mr. Ambassador, also Mr. BAYU PRIAWAN, or maybe also can for Mr. ADUL CHOTINISAKORN. Please. What is the best way to find balance and achieving a healthy mindset for us as entrepreneurs during this pandemic?
Well, like I said before, in every crisis, there will be an opportunity. So we just have to believe and have a good faith that the economy is going up, the ecosystem, business ecosystem will coming in, and the economic interaction will be more dense. So and the business will come up, will rise again, and we will be able to survive as long as we are strategically careful with what steps that we are going to follow for our businesses, and bear in mind as well that now we have to carefully able to mitigate the potential business risks that we are facing ahead of us. But despite that, I as a myself as a business person believe and have a good faith that everything's going to be better. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. ADUL or Mr. Ade PADMO. Actually, this is our last question for the Q&A session.
Thank you. I think the question some already answered by Pak Bayu as a businessman. He knows better how to how to deal with any situation, not only the current situation. Sometimes the global situation, economics is changing, whatever, government regulation changing, policy changing, the business has more able to how to deal with that. But one thing I just want to underline, although Pak Bayu already mentioned, but I just want to straight for to be optimistic. If as entrepreneur you have to be optimistic, and again I underline also to be creative and innovative. I think with that you can survive. You will survive. And of course, networking is also important, because through networking, and then you got many input through discussion. This will be helpful, and then to find way how to be to be entrepreneur. So I just that I can say because I'm not a business as a government, so my as government we have to try our best to make a conducive environment for the business people, also the community, so they can be able to do whatever they like to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ade. Okay. Maybe Mr. Adul want to adding up something?
For I myself, actually I'm the same as the Excellency, because I myself is government officer. But what I have seen in Thailand and some country like in India, with some of my friends, some people they change the business model also for their own business, like restaurant and something like that. That now they change to make more on the delivery. They makes the what you call share kitchen and so, because finally you have to fix and based on your core business. But with for post COVID, I think instead of fixing on your core business, you have to think of something else that you can do, not only your own your core business only. I think this is the way that you have to adjust yourself, because after COVID, I think consumer behavior will gonna be changed, and also way of doing business also change. Some business will may not exist anymore. So I think post COVID, you have to rethink again what kinds of business you can design, and the scenario and platform going to be changed for after COVID-19. This is what I can share from my own idea.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Adul. Okay. Okay, actually we already closed the question and answering session to have effort to face new normal in business sector. So how? The keynote speaker and also the panelists, Mr. Ade, Mr. Adul, and also Mr. BAYU, are you ready for making a platform for business matching in the future?
I think that is a very good suggestion, and if we can make a business synergy event last time, why couldn't we make it now again in virtual? I think that will help us to concretely create an opportunity. Thank you. I hope Mr. Adul and Mr. Ambassador could help us to facilitate the business synergy between JAPNAS and Thailand and ASEAN countries.
Do you mean this is permanent platform or just virtual business matching?
I think what he mentioned is just a virtual business matching to create opportunity, Pak.
Okay. My pleasure.
Like we did last time, Pak.
Okay.
But virtually now we're gonna.
Okay, how about Mr. Ade?
Thank you. I think a very good suggestion. I take note that, and actually with this video call, webinar also attended by my economic officer who from Ministry of Trade. I think he will take note and he will convey to his his superior, his director and his DG about the possibility. But as I mentioned in my remarks, there is already a platform, the high level of course this is between government official and from ASEAN from business people from ASEAN represented by ABAK. So I think you can also convey this to ABAK Indonesia or ABAK Thailand or each individual ASEAN member states. So ABAK is ASEAN Business Advisory Council. So through that, there's also possible for them to facilitate the idea to have a platform for business matching. I think it's the idea. So we can use to prong one through government and the other one through business interaction. So then we can have such kind of virtual business matching. And what JAPNAS already initiate, it's a very good idea. And how I know there is several webinar by many distinguished speaker, and now the issue is how to synergy all those activity become a bigger audience, bigger participant involving all ASEAN member state, especially the business. So this probably JAPNAS can initiatives working with ABAC or other institution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for our keynote speaker and panelists who already answered the question and answer sessions. And well, ladies and gentlemen, may I thank you very much for your active participation also in this webinar. I hope you enjoy the program. And we finally come to the end of this webinar. Before I close the webinar, I would like to welcome the chairman of JAPNAS from Jawa Timur and the chairman of JAPNAS from Lampung. Welcome.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, keynote speaker and the panelists, His Excellency Mr. Ambassador, Mr. ADUL, CHOTINISAKORN, Mr. BAYU PRIAWAN and the chairman of JAPNAS around Indonesia, chairman JAPNAS of Papua Barat, Mr. Jasper Mario Kasmun, chairman JAPNAS Jawa Timur, East Java, Muhammad Supriyadi, chairman JAPNAS Lampung, Mr. Henry Irawan, especially thanks for Mr. Widianto Saputro, and all of members of JAPNAS around Indonesia and the participant, all the participants. Thank you for your time to join this webinar. At the end of this webinar, I would like to say Alhamdulillah and Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to thank you so much for the speakers for informative and interesting presentation, and to the participants for your very active participation. Hopefully the webinar will be beneficial for everybody. Please give applause for the speaker and for all of you. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Kapun ka. It's a wrap.
Sesuatu yang beda dan istimewa. Solusi bisnis usaha pemula. Mengoptimalkan sumber daya yang ada di Indonesia.
Membangun hubungan kerjasama dengan penuh komitmen.
Menciptakan jaringan yang terpercaya dan berintegritas.
Menjadi organisasi berkredibilitas baik.
Mendorong ekonomi yang maju, mandiri, dan bersinambung.
Kita sadar bahwa Indonesia itu potensinya luar biasa. Dan masih banyak potensi-potensi di Indonesia ini yang sebetulnya belum kita garap sama sekali. Oleh karenanya, kita sebagai pengusaha nasional harus mampu merubah mindset cara kerja kita sebagai seorang pengusaha dari berbasis konsumsi menjadi berbasis produksi.
Kekuatan ekonomi bergeser dari barat ke timur. Pertumbuhan ekonomi di dunia timur membuka kesempatan baru bagi masa depan yang dinamis dan produktif. Sebuah paradigma baru di cakrawala, Indonesia, ibarat bintang yang bersinar. Untuk kemajuan Indonesia, dibutuhkan suatu strategi pembangunan ekonomi yang dapat mengubah pola ekonomi konsumtif menjadi ekonomi produktif, sehingga menjadi negara adidaya di Asia Tenggara.
Tujuan utama ya, pendirian JAPNAS, mungkin saya bisa keluar dengan 2 kata, yaitu sinergi bisnis.
Pada dasarnya JAPNAS adalah katalis, menggabungkan berbagai macam ekspertis, kekuatan, potensi, dan sebagainya, berkolaborasi menjadi satu untuk mengembangkan produksi Indonesia. Di JAPNAS berkumpul begitu banyak pengusaha dengan begitu banyak ekspertis dan bidang bisnis. Ada yang fokus di manajemen investasi, ada yang di keuangan, ada yang berbicara tentang infrastruktur, properti, maritim, pariwisata, kelautan, di perdagangan luar negeri. Kami membentuk sebuah komite investasi yang berfungsi sebagai hub, sehingga beragam opportunity ini masuk dan dievaluasi bersama. Opportunity dari masing-masing ekspertis teman-teman yang lain juga digabungkan bersama. Kita meramu menjadi sebuah solusi untuk maju bersama-sama, besar bersama-sama, meningkatkan daya saing bersama-sama.
JAPNAS terkenal dengan konkretnya.
Anggota JAPNAS yang saya tahu, itu mereka produktif, kreatif, dan jujur.
Saya menginginkan adanya sindikasi bisnis dan saya melihat dari teman-teman JAPNAS semuanya memiliki usaha yang cukup bervariasi dan saya juga bisa menambah networking dan juga menambah teman untuk berbagi pengalaman.
Seluruh stakeholders menjadi satu untuk membuat kita bisa merealisasikan potensi-potensi investasi ini menjadi sebuah industri.
Kita selalu tidak melihat segala hal dalam segi bisnis dan bisnis gitu. Kita adalah sebuah keluarga besar.
Bisnis ini built on trust. Kita word of mouth. Jadi jaringan inilah yang akan menjadi persaudaraan kita.
Dan itu yang memperkuat bonding antar anggota dari JAPNAS itu sendiri.
Mendorong anggotanya untuk dapat lebih berkembang.
Jaringan, peluang, kolaborasi, bisnis.
Untuk membantu membangun fondasi bagi para wirausaha.
Dengan sinergi yang positif, kita tumbuh menjadi mandiri.
Membantu pengusaha mencapai potensi yang lebih maksimal.
Menjadi wadah yang besar bagi pengusaha untuk tumbuh bersama. Untuk menjadi kekuatan ekonomi baru di Indonesia.
Saya berharap JAPNAS nantinya bisa menjadi business gateway bagi pengusaha nasional maupun pengusaha internasional yang mau bersinergi dan mau menanamkan usahanya di Indonesia untuk bisa membuat Indonesia menjadi raksasa ekonomi baru.
Bergabunglah dengan paradigma ekonomi baru pengusaha mandiri. Masa depan ada di tangan kita.